What is up, my friends? Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers gaining wisdom from their stories for both you and I to grow in our own craft. I'm your guide, Ned Schaut, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 12 to 19, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 21st year of marriage. So yes, I am in the thick of it, and I am working daily to rebel against the low expectations set for us fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by the Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skills. The role of the father is to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my new friend, Ted Phaeton. He is a productivity expert, TV host, and founder of The Modern Man. He is an Emmy award-winning meteorologist. He's mastered time, optimization, and peak performance, and he helps high-achieving men take control of their schedules and unlock their full potential. Ted is a husband, a father, and a man on a mission to inspire men everywhere to lead with purpose, efficiency, and freedom. Enjoy meeting my friend, Ted. All right, Ted, what is up, my new friend? Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling fantastic. Blessed and highly favored, Ned. It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you to the audience for giving me the time. It's something I think it's our most important and most valuable asset, and I promise not to waste it. So thank you, and thank you to the audience for spending some time with us today.
Love it, dude. Love it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Our friend Hector connected us, said you are a great dude. Love fatherhood, love inspiring men. So I'm looking forward to getting into that. So first question for you right out the gate is, how old do you find yourself today?
Oh, man. I find myself 36 years old, knocking on the door of 37. I feel like I'm not a day over 28, but the grays might have you thinking I'm damn near 40.
There you go. Yeah, I got plenty of gray in here. Kids will do that to you. So 36, almost 37, feel like 28. What makes you feel 28? What does that mean?
I mean, just the thirst of life, the joy of life, the juices that are flowing. I wake up in the morning. I'm thankful to do what I do. There's peace and alignment. And what I mean by that is peace of my presence, not trying to get out of my current situation. Alignment in the fact that I might not be where I want to be, but I'm comfortable in that gap because I'm certain of where I'm headed and where I'm going. So that's part of the vitality that I feel. Also, been picking up jujitsu. Not jujitsu, Muay Thai. I just started Muay Thai. Been leaning into jujitsu. Our mutual friend Hector would be pushing me towards jujitsu a little bit more, but that's given me a new lease on life, if you would. I'm a student again. I'm learning something new at 36 years old. I'm being humbled. These are things I've done with intention that's helped me feel young, continue to be young, and I continue to express that energy moving forward. I'm only getting better.
Yeah, love it. Cool. How many years you been married?
All right, going on 3 years married now, and it's been a fantastic ride. I feel like I'm still an amateur at this, so I got a lot to learn.
Oh, man, I'm 20 years in, and my wife and I just went on a marriage retreat last week, actually. And it's like, bro, there's just so much to learn. It's really a beautiful thing, the opportunity God's given us with marriage, but it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's beautiful work. So, yeah, man, it's good. And then kiddos, how many kids you have? How old are they?
One kid. I've been doing this for about 12 months, so still very new at it, man. It's been the most amazing ride, the most amazing adventure. Hard to put into words, and I'm sure many times over, the joy that it brings. Man, my life looks completely different now. I feel completely different. If we were doing this podcast a year ago, or even 6 months ago, you probably would be speaking to a different Ted. So it's been an ever-changing journey.
So what does that mean? What's changed in the last 6 months? So you have this little girl, right? You have this little girl. You're 6 months into this process, and the Ted from 6 months ago to the Ted today, there's been some shifts. What does that mean?
Pumping the brakes. And I believe a lot of men, a lot of fathers could relate to this, of that go, go, go attitude, that very ambitious foundation that really has driven me to where I am in life. The success that I've been able to enjoy has been some of that ambition, some of that lack of patience, some of
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that wanting to get to the next step, but hitting that goal and the competitiveness within me. It's taken me so far. And what I had to learn in my entrepreneurship journey was systems and processes. I had to learn patience. And then you throw a child in the mix, and I had to completely reapproach how I set my schedule, the communication I had with my wife. And then now that this baby, we're nurturing her, and I was able to take time off of work in the first 6 weeks of her life, and then another month off as she's 3 months old. The joy and just the fulfillment that time together give me, like the days I'm with my daughter, I get absolutely nothing done, Ned. And my wife's like, "What'd you get done today?" I'm like, "Nothing." And it was fantastic. But 6 months ago, or even before my daughter was born, if the whole day went by and I didn't get anything done, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the kind of guy that would need a mental health day and then beat myself up for the mental health day because I didn't do anything. But now it's just joy and peace in the calm of not doing anything, not running around, just being present with my daughter for those little moments I can't replicate. I can't recreate. And that's been the biggest change for me, is learning how to pump the brakes, build more presence, and be where you are and enjoy the moment.
So, and I'm sure that these milestone moments or these mental mindset shifts will continue to happen, over the years. But was there an incident where you were working too much, your wife called you out, or you just had this realization of like, oh my gosh, she's changing so quick and I want to be there for it? Were there any kind of things that you noticed that made you make that shift?
Yeah, luckily the accountability came before my daughter was born.
Hmm.
My wife was very much transparent in her disdain of my time management at the time, and it was just a lack of proper management on my end. Things were overflowing. I wasn't respecting our time together. We'd be together, but I'd be on my phone. I'd be trying to get a social media post up. I'm half there, but I'm not fully there. Even as I started time blocking and I had everything together. We got to a point. She said, "I don't feel like I'm a priority to you." And the typical guy thing, I get logical, right? And I'm like, "Oh, I do time blocking. Here's the time I spend sleeping. Here's the time I spend at work. Here's the time I spend with you, and everything else is underneath." I said, outside of sleep and my full-time job that I can't control, I spend my most of my time with you. That's me trying to be logical. But then she would answer, she's like, "Yes, but okay, you've given me all your time, but the time doesn't feel like you're there." And that's when I realized there's a difference between quantity and quality. You know, it wasn't the amount of time I was spending with her, it was the quality of that time that I was giving her. I wasn't fully there. I wasn't maximizing the moment. I wasn't planning ahead. I wasn't engaging. And I learned it was more about, okay, setting the intentionality of that time together, defending that time together, and also understanding the communication that has to happen if something were to come up in one realm or another where that time needs to be compromised. Communicating and navigating and gauging expectations beforehand. That way we can limit the amount of times we step on each other's toes or find ourselves out of bounds.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, just about maybe 2 months ago, I'm overloaded with work, overloaded with some stress. Have been. I'm less now, but I'm trying to cut some things out. And a mentor of mine asked me, like, Ned, what do you really want? Like, out of all the things you're working on, what do you really want? And I sat there and I paused and I said, dude, I really, if I want one thing, I want to be 85 years old and still married to my wife. That's the one thing that if I look back on my life, like that's what I want to say is true. And as I walked away from that conversation, I was like, am I putting the same energy into the reality of that statement than I am in the gym or on my podcast or in my business? I'm like, no, not really. Like time wise on my dashboard, yeah, it looks pretty good, but energy wise, not, And so it's a big realization and it's hard to pull back in the day to day. It's hard to think, like 40 years down the road when today feels so important. But I really resonate with what you're saying is figuring this out now and then letting our day to day life reflect that is hard, but really important.
Yeah. I've discovered, and this is just the joy I found, the comfort I found was my priorities should reflect how I spend my time. And I'm a very ambitious man, and I can accelerate the growth of my business. I can accelerate the time in which I get my goals done. However, that would take time away from even more time away from my family. It's still a limited time, right? I manage a lot. I have a full time job, a business, a men's group that I lead. I hit the gym. I do Muay Thai. I pour into myself,
which is good, right? It's good to do.
Yeah.
And it's important for our families. Got to take care of you to be able to take care of anyone else. But yeah, prioritizing the energy and the presence when you are with those in your care.
I found some men justify working overtime at work for their family. And I didn't want my priorities to be flipped like that, right? Like, okay, my family's most important, which is why I'm never home. It's like, okay, hold on, wait a minute. Yes, providing is important. Yes, being able to help set a strong financial foundation for your family and your future is important, but also at what cost? Right? If there's food on the table, the bills are paid, the roof's over our head, pillows under our head, we are taken care of, we are covered, we're provided for. All the growth that comes on the back end, those are the ambitions, and those are the infinite goals that will never be fulfilled. Right? We can pay for our life. Everything else is just a scoreboard that I'm chasing, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been talking with my kids, and then in just any kind of groups I'm in right now is the scoreboard, right? A lot of times I look at, maximizing my time, my business growth, my financial growth, my gains in the gym, whatever. But if you were to look at Galatians 5 and start to measure yourself based on the fruits of the Spirit, am I growing in love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness? And then the one that is like interesting is the self-control. Self-control is like listed in there with this list of like great characteristics, and then self-control. Not am I controlling those around me? Am I controlling myself? So I think those are a great measurement to start thinking about, like, have I grown in love in the last year, inside and out? So thinking about those metrics. We might come back to some of this, but let me ask you this question. Where do you guys do life?
We're in Charlotte, North Carolina, and wherever we can travel. We love traveling the world. That's one of our values, one of our joys. I remember first trip we took together. Again, that ambitious side, man, it was maybe 5-6 years. I didn't take a vacation, Ned. And my wife and I, we were, boyfriend, girlfriend at the time. We were dating for maybe a year and a half. She's like, we need to take a vacation. And we went to Aruba. And that was the first bug that bit me of like needing to travel. And I was like, I haven't seen enough of God's creation yet. So that was that was the start of international travel. So Charlotte, North Carolina, but we'll fly wherever the adventure takes us.
Nice, man. I love that. And then you've kind of alluded to a few things, but maybe in like 2 minutes breakdown, what is it that you do to provide for the family and provide value out in the world?
Yeah. So my day job, I say in air quotes because it's really a morning job, is I'm a meteorologist in Charlotte, North Carolina, Monday through Friday. I have a 6-hour morning show. Thank you. So I provide weather to the Queen City. After that, I pour into my podcast, the Modern Man Podcast, connecting men in pursuit of their potential, talking about growth, mental health, brotherhood, integrity, really just all things that help us elevate our capacity for life. That leads to the group that I lead, the men's group, the Noble Knights. We have a weekly group coaching call, and just pour into brotherhood. And those are the things that I pour into, and the things that I do that help provide and build a life for my family.
Love it, man. As it relates to fatherhood, how do you approach fatherhood? Like, what's the role of the father? So if you were doing a coaching call, you have your group of men and you're like, all right, today we're talking about fatherhood. What are the 2 or 3 things that you would say are the most critical components for you as it relates to fatherhood?
Number one, I think, is love, being an example of love to my child. Number two, I would say structure, offering structure to my child. And number three, guidance, guidance through faith, guidance through emotion, guidance through communication, guidance through human interaction. I think those are the 3 focuses I would give, because love is so important, man. I think some of the most amazing moments in my life have been surrounded by love. And growing up, I think a lot of my darkness, a lot of my victim mindset, a lot of my resentment towards the world in my younger 20s, teens through college, I think a lot of that was out of a lack of love or even a rebellion against love. Because I was very much loved growing up, but I think for me, I was almost conditioned away from that. I felt soft, which is kind of funny. I have a daughter. I could have sworn I was hard, Ned. I thought I was a gangster, but it turns out I'm just a mush.
God's like, here's this little girl and let me show you how gangster you are.
Exactly. Right. We get what we need. But that's why that's been so important for me is just love. And I credit my wife for showing me that. Her family structure has shown me that. And that blanket of love can do so much. It can cover so many areas. So that's the first and foremost thing that I would start with and lean into.
And what does love mean to you? So I'm going to ask it in two parts. You can kind of, it's interesting you use the word love and then use the word structure. I haven't heard a lot of people use like asking about fatherhood, talking about structure, but that's like such a key component to what you and I are supposed to do, right? We want to build a home and a place where you walk in and it's just peaceful, right? Like we have the ability to be this oak tree that our family can just come underneath and like, hey, we're here, they trust us, etc. And I think there's this combination or this relationship of love and structure. Our culture, I think, would say like love and structure don't go together. You know, love would mean like let your kid do whatever they want, or I don't know what they say. Who's they, anyways? But for you, as you think about love and structure, how do those go together? Because they seem to be like really important that for me to love my kid well, it means that I create structure. But third word you used, which I think is fantastic, is guide, right? A guide is somebody who is like going down the trail and they maybe have been there, they maybe haven't, but they're kind of pointing out things to be aware of, not necessarily like doing all the work, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so break down love and your thoughts on what I said.
So love, I think, is more of an action, right? They say love is a verb. Love is consistency, trust, dependency. So love is meeting my daughter where she's at. Love is sitting with her in her emotions. Love is sitting with her when she's upset, when she's crying, when she's happy. When she was very, very young, they used to call me the savvy whisperer. My daughter's name is Savannah. And, she's a newborn. Her heart rate's going at 150, 152. She's crying. She doesn't know what's happening. And like for a lot of parents, you have this crying baby. You don't know why. You're holding them. You're anxious. So your heart rate's going fast. You're holding this baby close to you. Your baby senses you're stressed. So she's stressed too. The reason I was a quote unquote whisperer was because, and thankful to the work I did beforehand of breath work, meditation, and just learning to regulate myself. But I would grab her, I would hold her close. I'm realizing one of us has to be the adult here, right? But the love is I will meet you where you're at. I will do my box breathing to regulate my nervous system, and she would settle into me. So I think that would be my example of love showing up and meeting her where she's at. The structure part would also be setting appropriate boundaries. I can meet you where you're at, but there's going to be a no.
Mm.
And sometimes those no's can be painful, right? There's times it will hurt me to disappoint you, or it will hurt me to it will hurt me to pull the pocket knife out of your hand that you just grabbed out of the drawer, but I am doing it for your own good. And I don't really care if you're crying and you're upset. I'm doing this because this is dangerous and it can hurt you. So there's that structure piece of I will have to tell you no. I will have to set boundaries, and the boundaries are going to be for your benefit, not for mine. The boundaries are not because I said so, which is going to be the third piece, that guide. I'm not just the disciplinarian of no, it's no, but here's why.
Yeah.
Right? The guide piece is still meeting her where she's at, setting the appropriate boundaries, and then guiding her through the areas that are open and giving her reasoning along the way. And again, I'm just 12 months into this, right? So this is in beta.
Yeah, but you're 36
I won't know
years
for 18
into
years.
yeah, but you're into 36 years of life and work. As you're speaking about love and structure and the phrase meeting her where she's at, the word that popped into my head was unconditional love. But as like I was thinking about it while you said it, it's like, why do we even need to say unconditional love? Like that right there shows us that there's this misconception or some problems with the word love in our society and in our life. Like love is unconditional, right? There shouldn't be any conditions if we're talking about true authentic love. And this is something that's come up with my wife and I lately is, based on her growing up patterns, is this feeling like if maybe she's not showing up the way that is like making Ned's life awesome, that then I may refrain or I may pull back some, which then feels as though my affection is based on her performance, which is such a great reality. It's like, or realization, I should say, is starting to pay attention to, am I showing up differently because of the way that those around me are showing up, which is fine, whatever. But if we want to be mature men, kings in our castle, leading, loving unconditionally those that God have been placed in our care, their behavior should have zero impact on the way that we're meeting them where they're at, loving or unconditional love, if we want to use that term. I think if fathers listening could start to think about love as it's just unconditional show up for my family, like, dude, the world would look different.
Oh my gosh. What rocked me is that example I just gave you of regulating my daughter's nervous system with my box breathing. Good friend of mine, Kyle Langen. I want to make sure I give him credit for saying this because I just told him about that story. And he's known of, and this is for anyone who works in a leadership role or who works in a work environment where there are people who look up to them and they have some influence over.
So any dad who has
exactly,
a home.
Right? He said, I mentioned how easy it was to do that for my daughter. And whenever I've had difficultness in communication or situations at work or whatnot, Kyle was privy to some of those challenges. He mentioned so eloquently, he's like, it's easy for you to do that because you love her. And he's like, imagine you bring that same love into your workplace and into the world. And it shifted me, Ned, because he was so right. And that's what I mean, how love is all encompassing, right? It's easy for me to love my daughter, meet her where she's at, regulate and bring it down. But how many times in the real world do we get caught up with, increased blood pressure and get caught up in the moment? Someone pushed a button and it could be, hey, why was the button there in the first place for them to push? But, I'm working on myself. But starting with that love piece allows us to, as you started the podcast with, take a breath, meet them where they're at, regulate both of yourselves, and then have clear conversations, clear communication. That's the game changer. And that's why I think, love is great in the home, but also when we embody that, not just at home, but through the world and our workplace. I mean, it moves mountains and it changes others around us. As you mentioned, how other people could trigger us. You could actually be the reverse trigger for somebody else who's having a bad day. And instead of you reacting negatively to them being slow or cutting you off, it's meeting them with empathy and letting them like, hey, are you okay? And they might tell you like, hey, I didn't mean to cut you off. I've been late for work 3 times. My boss is going to fire me. Oh man, then go, dog, go.
Yeah.
That's all.
Seeing people, their story. Yes. And I think it's great to go, what is my belief around love? Like, what is love? And if you want to go biblically, like 1 Corinthians 13 is all these words that don't really feel very loving because it doesn't make my life easier. Patient, kind, 1 Corinthians 13 doesn't keep a record of wrong. I mean, those are 3 freaking things right there that are hard. So when I say I love you, I love this, do I just love how you make my life feel better and easier? Or am I willing to show up and be patient and kind when everything in me doesn't want to be, right? When I'm triggered or whatever. So I think as men, it's really important for us to think about what we believe and why we believe it. And many of us may even have to redefine some of those things.
I mean, I think it's what cultivated my wife and I, the bond we have. The love wasn't made in the good times. We enjoy that, right? The love is made in the hard times, the times of growth, which is why, I mentioned my accountability, right? The accountability that faced me was my wife. I promised to be better for myself. I say elevate our capacity for life for the people who depend on us. And if you want proof of that for anybody listening, meet a guy on the street or meet a guy in the gym, go through a workout together where you puke and you're both exhausted, and then sit down for lunch and see what kind of conversation you have. Because that adversity, that pain that you both went through together bonded you. And it might not quite be to love yet, but there is a joint struggle that you shared. Even further, if that workout was a buddy workout, where you had to trade off on something, you probably even built a stronger bond because like, dude, you didn't give up on me. I didn't give up on you. And then that's the the part right there. I didn't give up on you. You didn't give up on me. Because in the relationship, the love that happens is you end up exposing who you are, right? It's hard to hide under the weight in a tough workout. It's hard to hide when you live with this person under the same roof 24/7. And because of that, your greatness is highlighted, but so is the darkness. The contrast is real. And our fear is that when they see us, for all of us, they will leave us. But when they see the contrast, the light and the dark, and they stay, that's where I think that love and that bond is built. It's you've accepted me for my whole self, and you did not hurt me with the vulnerability I showed you.
Yeah. And what if marriages, husbands and wives, were able to view it that way, right? So, if you and I are going to go hit the gym together, there's we have an agreement that we're both showing up to go hammer out this workout together. But if we're just looking at a fight as a derailment to like Ned's world, well, then I'm not going to really have a lot of empathy or ability to see what's going on in her heart. Right. So I think if us couples were able to go, and men do this, like go talk to your spouse outside of a fight and go like, hey, the reality is we are going to fight. Like, can we shift how we view these things? And we still might not hug and kiss like immediately because we might be a little frustrated, whatever but are we both okay to go like, that's all right. Like we don't want to be mean. We want to find resolution and grow. I think have those conversations. I mean, that's maturity in your relationship.
It's identifying what's the true problem here, and it's often not your spouse. And we have to be so careful with our words, because there's one thing when the words attack each other, that's when it becomes counterintuitive. Law of diminishing returns, right? Now you're shouting over each other, you're having back and forth points where, my wife and I, we try and remind ourselves often, it's like, okay, hey, and we'll even do this mid-conversation and mid, I call them passionate conversations, not an argument, just a passionate conversation. We both feel very passionately about where we're coming from.
Yeah.
But it's also, hey, you're not the problem. I'm not the problem. This in between us is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes, again, as we mentioned in relationships, it's the accountability. So are we being faced with somewhere where we're not in integrity with ourselves? And the fact that our partner is providing this, are we being defensive? Are we refusing to see reality as it is? And is this the tension that we're seeing? Or is this something that we both see and we have two different ways of approaching it?
Yeah.
Which is often my wife and I, because we are completely opposite and we will look at the same thing. Like, Ned, we are so different in the ice cream tub, like a big tub of ice cream. I scoop from like the top. She scoops down, right? Like it's those like little things that we're different in. She leaves the top of the toothpaste off. I'm putting it back on. But because we see things differently, I will say 6, she will say 9. We are both right.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't take a moment to stop and check out the other person's perspectives, we'll forever call them out of their mind, crazy. I just don't understand. And then that's what builds more of a gap, more of a separation, more of that deterioration of that love, right? Because now I'm not feeling accepted as my whole self.
Right.
I'm feeling more of a distance. And that's what ends up when marriages again, I'm only 3 years into this, I'm in beta, but that's when 2, 3, 4 years go by and you don't feel like you're even connected anymore because you've spent so much time separating.
Yeah, good, man. So much we could connect on there. I think it's important that men, at least right now, just lean into marriage. I think it's one of the most important and beneficial opportunities for you to lean into. Ted, I want to shift gears. I'm going to move into a couple more questions here. Now, you're a man of faith. Okay, I actually haven't asked this question before, and I'm kind of leaning into this question a bit more. Kind of a good spot. You're 1 year into being a dad. If you were to fast forward 17 years from now, roughly, and your daughter's leaving the house, she's got the tools. You wanted to teach her finances and time management and to be, want to respect and this, that, and the other. If we were to sit down with her and ask her what she believes around her faith or what's important, what do you want to be true? Like, if you're able to think about this a little bit now on the front end, what do you want to pass on to her as it relates to faith?
I want her to have a relationship with God, a relationship with Jesus. I want her to be confident in her safety net. And what I mean by that, it's one thing for me to say, Dad's got you, Mom's got you.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't promise her that I'll be here tomorrow, right? So what I would hope, as much as I will move mountains to be there for her and be her rock, her foundation, and I know her mom would too, I would hope that her faith would be in more than just mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I hope her trust would be in.
Man, it's so good, and so much, like as you're saying it, so much of the reality of that being true is like, if you're like, all right, man, I'm gonna every morning from 7 to 8 a.m. we're doing Bible study together, right? Versus, and I'm not saying don't do something like that, but compared to you living out walking with God over the next 17 years, like you do those two things, the thing that she's going to see and pay attention to and matters the most is the way that you're doing it, right?
Correct.
Yeah. It's like that's where the guide comes in. Just to kind of share with you, just because it's kind of, we're on two ends of the spectrum here. My oldest daughter, she's 19. She's first year Boise State, which we're in Hawaii, right? So it's like, it's far. It's not, we can't see her all the time. And it's been really cool to see, because we've had some conversations when things are hard or she's lonely or she's sad, of like, hey, don't just lean on being busy with friends or a boyfriend or school. Like the moments of quiet, the moments of you're all alone and can't just come into mom and dad's room or whatever. Like that's where you and God need to start cultivating your relationship, turning, and like you said, the safety net, the identity of knowing who you are, where you came from. And it's cool. You're on this front end of like thinking about that,
Yeah. And that's why I say beta, right? Because it's we don't get a necessarily like a detailed handbook on how to do this. And
Nope. It's
that
all beta. I mean, because then they're 10, and then they're 16, and then they're 18, and then they're getting married, and then they're having a kid. It's like, we tell that to Brooklyn. She's on my oldest sometimes. It's like, hey, just so you know, this is the first time we've ever had a 16-year-old, so we're kind of like figuring this out, or
yeah.
whatever the stage may be.
And by the time the second one comes, the world changes so fast that they're in a different world, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
And you're a different
I've done
parent
the
now.
16-year-old thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? Like, the man who walks in the river, walks out, you can't walk in the same river twice because both the man and the river has changed. It's one of those things where we did a podcast episode a long time ago on fatherhood. And what one of the panelists said was acknowledging the world we grew up in and meeting our kids in the world that they're growing up in, and understanding those two is so huge. And I can just imagine how fast and how rapidly this world is growing and changing, and trying to keep up with the times. A 16-year-old today is going to be different than a 16-year-old 2 years from now. And, if the kid's 2 years apart, the siblings are 2 years apart, it's a different world.
It's good. Any last thoughts on the faith before I ask you my next question?
Just, transparently, I'm still growing in my faith. I know as a man, I could do a lot better. And so I don't take my words as one of expertise or straight conviction, but just a flawed man who's walking in obedience. And what I mean by obedience is actually getting up and do something. I used to think obedience was surrender, and just I was like, all right, God, have your will. But just like my mom would say, Ted, take out the garbage for me growing up, obedience was actually getting up and taking action. So I'm just a man that's taking the steps that I feel have been called for me to take. And I'm thankful for the journey.
I'm pretty sure that is the same thing that any of these old dudes in the Bible would say. David, Solomon, Abraham, they're just waking up and taking the steps obediently and then realizing when they screw it up and coming back, right? They all were flawed men. And so I think this idea of like, I could do better is not necessarily, I want to run from that in some aspects. It's like, I just want
Rebel against that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Cause it's like, we could go down a trail. Next question. All right. How was your relationship with your dad? So was your dad in your life growing up?
He was. Yes. Okay. It still is.
Okay, beautiful. So there's two parts to this. So what is something you appreciated about your dad? And then what's something you wish he would have done differently? Now, when I say wish he would have done differently, hold it loosely, because obviously we're like, I wouldn't change it probably because it helped shape the man that we are today. But as I reflect back, because of this action of his, it's going to make me show up differently. So that's kind of the point of it.
My dad has I mean, he's been the example of hard work, dedication, commitment for me growing up. I used to laugh saying it's hard for me to complain about anything because, my dad, he moved here from Haiti at 29 years old. He had an accounting degree and a law degree in Haiti, came to the States and started over. Worked all these different jobs and, growing up would leave the house 5 a.m., commute 2 hours to work, come home 6 p.m. He was a worker and I saw it and I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for the wisdom that he gave me along the way. This is a man who I grew up watching Jeopardy with, and the amount of times he would get like all the Daily Doubles, the Final Jeopardy. He was a voracious reader, very intelligent man. I don't mean to speak about him in the past tense. This is just my memory of him growing up. He's still very much just as sharp. He taught me knowledge, patience, guidance, and love. Anything I would have done differently as I've grown older, and I realized I'm very much like my father. I also realized some of my reluctance towards conflict, passivity that I got from my dad. He was a very easygoing guy. Nothing really bugged him. Let a lot of things go. Some of it could have been, language barrier early on. But what I had to learn for myself was being a little more assertive and more aggressive towards my goals, towards things that were important to me, setting boundaries. And those were traits I had to adopt and pick up on my own. So those are some of my initial thoughts and feedback. But like you said, man, I wouldn't change a thing. And I'm just so blessed and thankful. Like, a couple of weeks ago, I called my dad on the way home from work. He's like, "Oh, what's up?" And I don't want anything. He's 82 years old, 83 actually. And I just said, "Dad, I thought about you and I just wanted to call you because I'm thankful that I still can." Mm-hmm. And we had a quick talk. He rushes me off the phone, man. Like I'll call him to chat, and he'll be like, 5 minutes later, he's like, all right, good talking." But it's always great getting wisdom from him, learning from him, and sharing with him everything that I'm doing. Now, I mean, you can see, for anyone watching, I imagine this is video and audio. The bookshelf behind me, some of these are his books. Like I have like a 12 book collection of the history of civilization that he gave to me. And my wife's like, "More books?" I'm like, "Listen, this is my dad's given me his whole library. So I have to adopt it." So I'm thankful for the knowledge that he's given me.
Beautiful. What's your dad's name?
Jacques.
Jacques. Cool, man. That's awesome that you've had a great dad in your life to set such a beautiful example for hard work and what it means to do life. Now, as it relates to now, you are a guide to men, and looking at your mission to lead, serve men that come across your path. There's 3 words that I saw on your mission, and I just wanted to maybe have you break them down for us before I ask my last couple questions. But it says, my mission is to inspire men to lead with purpose, with efficiency, and with freedom. So as you're approaching life as a father, as a man, as a husband, as a leader, these 3 words have resonated with you in some regard. So break them down for us. Like, what do those mean? And if dudes are listening right now, what would you want them to walk away with knowing about those powerful words?
Yeah. So starting with the purpose, it's just foundational into why I get up, why I'm here, connecting men in pursuit of their potential. That's the vision of modern man. And I thought to myself, what gives me joy? What could I just express wholeheartedly and confidently feel like I could be one of the best in the world at? And it's connecting men in pursuit of their potential. So that purpose, it what gets me up in the morning, and it's what keeps me going through. And I'm sure being a podcast host yourself, over 500 episodes, I've been hosting podcasts for over 5 years. I started mine in 2018 before I rebranded and did all the Modern Man. So I know what it's like, because the money doesn't come right away. And you spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, and the audience doesn't come right away. It's a very selfless mission and drive to start a podcast, which is why I'm so thankful and honored to be on your podcast for over 500 episodes in. I know this is real to you, so I appreciate that. But the times where things are slow, the money's not coming in, the audience isn't there, you're thinking to yourself, what am I doing this for? The times I thought about quitting, those have been the moments I stop. I pray and I ask God for that guidance. And it's always, I used to ask people, what does God's voice sound like? And I've learned it's not necessarily just a powerful, whoa, voice. It's oftentimes just the energy and the reactions and the echoes of life that's around you and the footsteps that you're taking. So I've leaned into that, and that's been that purpose aspect of it. Number two has been the efficiency, because when I got clear on the purpose, the actions became clear.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as though, okay, now I know I'm heading towards something. There's clarity in direction. My first podcast, for example, was a very broad self-development podcast. My guests were everywhere. My audience was everywhere. The moment I niched down and became focused on just serving men and connecting men in pursuit of their potential, clarity of the guests came, clarity of my audience came, clarity of my message came, and I became very efficient in my behavior and in my actions. And that efficiency piece is what sped me up from the gap between where I was and where I was hoping to go. So that efficiency was everything. And then the freedom aspect. Oftentimes, if we don't have purpose and the efficiency, we are working a job that doesn't fill our hearts, and we are not free in that job. I think as men, we'll always be obligated to something. I'm not rebelling against
I like
the job, right?
Yeah.
But we always will have an obligation, right? I could say, I can't wait to quit my job or not go independent. But even for the entrepreneurs that are listening that have their freedom, they're still obligated to something, right? You're still obligated to your clients. You're still obligated to the structure or the commitment you've made to society that will provide you the funds in order to live. So I'm acknowledging that we will always have that aspect of it. But my freedom is these things that I'm committed to fill me up. These things that I'm committed to give me joy. Because I could say for a fact, I have never recorded a podcast, hit record at the end, and felt worse than before.
Yeah.
Ned, I've had tech issues that has me punching a pillow, literally in anger. Like, this is not going to work. What's going on? The tech issues kind of subside, and I get on the podcast. I am in a rage beforehand. I get the tech issues done. I finish recording, and within 45 minutes, I'm on a completely different level. I'm like, that was awesome. Such a great talk.
Yeah.
Like, that's the power of what I do every day. And that's what it gives me. So this not work. Sure, there's aspects of it that will be work, things I don't want to do, but there's freedom in that. And that's why those three words resonate with me, is because identifying and tapping into that person gives us clarity of movement and efficiency of movement. And because it's aligned, we are free in our behaviors. I'm able to play with my daughter right after this and right before this, because like I said beforehand, one of my priorities, my values is my family, and I'm able to do as such. I saw my daughter's first steps. I get to put her to sleep at night. I come home from work. I work a full-time job, but I'm home by 11 a.m. I only miss her first nap, and sometimes I'm putting her down for her first nap.
Yeah.
So I'm still very much present in my daughter's life while providing for the family, and that's where the purpose, the efficiency, and that freedom have all come together for me.
I love it all. Resonate with it all, and maybe obligation and commitment. So and freedom. So I love what you're saying, because freedom isn't like, oh, let's try to build a business and sell it at age 50 so that we can do nothing all the time. Like, that sounds awful. Anyways, great to have that financial freedom to then go obligate yourself or go commit to something else. Obligate, I think, sometimes has negative connotations, but it doesn't have to. So men listening, what are you obligating yourself to? And if you're going to be obligated to do some kind of job or some kind of work, are you just like, I'm going to put in this 20 years. I'm just going to sell my soul for this 20 years so that then I can retire at 65. Like, dude, don't do that. You're going to do it, or find joy in what it is that you do. And I feel like for myself, there's been these micro moments. So like I got into insurance in 2008, and it was always a stepping stone. Always. And then 2018 or 2016, really, I was like, I guess this is what I'm doing. So like, I bought my business partner out, leaned into it. But still, I started going like, how do I work 5 hours a week? How do I get to like not working at all so that I can do what I want to do? And God gave me a taste of that this last year. And some of the things that I really thought I wanted to do didn't pan out. And it was like a gift from him. And so I'm like, God, you're blessing the insurance business. Like, we more than almost tripled our employees. And it's like, we're able to provide a great place for people to be, where we start every day off with prayer. Dude, it's super cool. And so men listening, are you obligated to something that you can find joy in? Or do you need to go find something else to, like to commit to, whether it's family, job, etc.? Do you need to make a shift? So as I say all that, Ted, any I know we're wrapping up here in a minute, but any last thoughts that come up for you if you're as we're talking to men here?
Yeah. Well, what you mentioned, the obligation, what you're obligated to. And, I say a lot of times that our contribution to society is what gives the energetic exchange of finances. And for anybody that's listening, and again, still working on my faith journey, but as my mentors have poured into me and have opened my eyes to, is our jobs, our contribution to society is our ministry.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be communicating and impacting other people and the ones that are going to be watching us and be around us. So whether it's the smallest job, and I don't say small as in it's minuscule or it's deemed less valuable than someone else's, but if it's mopping the floors, or if it's deciding your Q3 earnings, you're serving something bigger than yourself. And if you find expertise, joy, fulfillment in that, that is a precious and valuable obligation to have. So that's just one piece I wanted to finish on is that obligation. Again, when it's linked to the purpose that we feel. One of my prayers that I have, and I don't think I've ever shared this, I pray to God that I'm an instrument to his love on earth. So my obedience and what I follow in and the purpose I feel that I'm driven to is, again, the instrument God put me on. So if I'm following this purpose of connecting men in pursuit of their potential, because it was put within me before I even was born, arrived on this earth, that is what I'm committed to. That is what I'm obligated to, and the actions that require. My commitment to society in that realm will be what provides.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I found moving forward. And that's what I just hope others can tap into.
Yes, dude, good. All right, two last questions, and then you're going to go back and play with your daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, so the podcast Fatherhood Field Notes, you've just been doing it, opening up your field notes for us to all learn, gain from your life. The theme is rebel and create. Very simply, what are you rebelling against, and what do you hope to create from that?
Yeah. What I'm rebelling against, and I'm sure you guys could hear it in the passion of the last couple of answers, is the status quo, the prescribed life so many of us followed. I followed the playbook, right? I did what I was told. Some of the love I got from my parents was structure. So I grew up, went to private school, got good grades, got the job, and did everything I was supposed to do. And full-time job working the career in TV in my 20s, and realized, okay, I should be happy now. And what is quite it. So I'm rebelling against that playbook that we've been given. What do you want to do for the rest of your life? No. What do you want to do for this season? What do you want to contribute the next 10 years to and be one of the best in the world at? Because it wakes you up and it lightens you up. It gives you that fire, something that you know that you're going to commit to. And I'm not saying you're going to be in the NBA, you're going to be an athlete. Not all of us are gifted like that. I was very athletic, but your boy was 135 pounds, soaking wet, 5'7" senior year of the varsity football team. I wasn't going to make it to the league. I had to give it up. Being an anchor got me close to the national. I'm taking pictures with the national championship trophy, the college national championship trophy. Had I stuck to my arena of football, I would have never gotten that close. Because I went with the gifts God gave me, I'm taking pictures with the trophy. So that's what I rebel against is the status quo and the prescribed life that so many of us have and follow. We take that pill and we're disappointed at the symptoms.
Last question, my friend, legacy question. So now we're going to fast forward to your daughter and maybe some other kiddos who are around 40, around your age today. If you were to peer into their homes, what is it that you would hope to see and feel like, oh, I did my duty, my job. This is what I see being played out in their homes.
Love, man. They're together. They're communicating. They're loving each other. I don't care how big, how small the home is. I'm not concerned with the toys in the driveway or the toys under the Christmas tree. I'm more concerned is their love in the home. Is there faith in the home? Are they spending time together, pouring into each other? That's the legacy I hope to live in. A lot of that's been following the example of my parents pouring into me growing up, my wife's family. We've been very blessed, very lucky to have this amazing family structure. I do believe it takes a village. And I just hope to echo that even further. If I had it my way, man, we'd all be on a compound. We'd all be living together, loving on each other, and just continuing to grow.
Well, Ted, one thing I just wanted to point out, which I think if every man could walk away from this conversation with, is you use two words today, which I think are extremely powerful. So, fathers, if we are called to love our children, the two things that Ted said was one, we unpacked this before, but it was about structure. And then just now, when I asked, what do you want to see in your home? You said love and you said communication. And so I think if we're fathers of love, the question I would ask is, are we creating space for those two things in our home? Is there communication in our homes? Is there structure in our homes? If not, then I would say let's call ourselves up a bit, that we may have an opportunity to step into a responsibility that God's given us to create structure in our home, not top down, do what I say, but bottom up love guidance. Okay. And then communication. Is there open communication in your home? And if not, what shifts do you need to make to ensure that that is a reality? Ted, dude, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being a man on a journey, pursuing what it means to be a man, a child of God, a king in his kingdom. Thank you for loving your wife well. Thank you for loving your daughter and for being willing to share that with the world. Much love and blessing to you. And where can people find you and find your podcast?
Ned, thank you, audience. I appreciate the time. Truly, it's been an honor to be on. For anybody that resonated with anything that I said, if you'd like to check out the podcast, themodernmanpodcast.com. I'm also The Modern Man Podcast on Instagram, Ted Phaeton on LinkedIn. Those are some of the areas that I dabble, that I hang out in, as well as on YouTube. You can find me at The Modern Man Podcast. And yeah, continuing to grow and get better, elevate our capacity for life. That's what it's all about. Embracing the challenges, man.
Love it. What an incredible conversation. The piece that I am sitting with and want to continue to think about is this unconditional love, right? If I even need to add unconditional love to it, am I really loving all that's been placed in my care? So I think as men, as fathers especially, and as husbands, let's make sure that we are clear as to what it means and looks like to love. Now, this is not an anything goes policy, but it's not making the moments, the struggles that we are going to find ourselves in, not making it about us. Now, am I making this situation about me? Right. So am I looking at love in regards to like, how does this impact Ned? Or am I looking at my opportunity to step in and how do I love, be patient, kind to those that are placed in my care? And now that's why it's so critical that you and I work on ourselves and allow us to look at the man in the mirror and smooth out the rough edges. And this is a die to self day after day after day after day. So think about love. What does it mean? What does it look like? How do you live that out? All right, my friends, thank you for being a listener. Please write a review if this is impacting you. If something resonated with you, share it with a friend. I just want to say thank you to all your dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guide, Ned Schaut. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.